Welcome back, Officers Republics, your correspondent, World Police Chief APGAINS. For the many people who reached out on Discord and Patreon my phone was literally pickpocketed out. Literally, like, I felt it happen, and the police and me couldn't catch the guy, and so it's going to be really hard for me to contact anyone unless I'm home. It's going to take me a while to get a new phone, unfortunately, so... if there's less communication, just know that it's not that I hate you. It's that I literally cannot communicate with you guys unless I'm sitting here at my desk. But Leia Organa requirements came out. I was going to do a video, but obviously had more pressing concerns that kind of took over. I think the general sentiment is that the rewards are great. Set 2 was a Scout Trooper R2D2, or Scout Trooper 7, which is a little tough. It's looking like we're gonna get 4 marquees, which is a bit rough, but it's not the end of the world. Especially because a lot of the other characters, a lot of the gear related stuff is already taken care of, and I know this is kind of the big problem is the the relic levels and stuff like that. The relic levels are top 3 as far as cost are concerned from both gear and relic level perspectives for Galactic Legend, but it's not the end of the world. Scout Trooper at 7, R2D2 at 8. If you already have JML, I feel like this is kind of like a layup. You might have like half of the requirements already done. Rolo at 5. I think she should be at 3 for JML. Chirper at 3. Not super happy about that, but if Leia ends up working with Ewoks, I guess it'll be fine. Drogon, who I think is either going to be, I mean, let's be honest, he's either a marquee character, which would be whatever. A legendary character. In that case, I really, really hope that his requirements are also Leia requirements. But if it's kind of like a Jedi Knight Luke JML thing, where his requirements are different, obviously that would make the investment time for Leia significantly longer. I don't foresee that happening just because of the timetable that we have to put Leia into the game. I imagine they would probably want to give us a pretty big head start as far as grinding up characters for legendary Captain Drogon or Cal Drogo or whatever the fuck you want to call him. But likely going to be a marquee character. Some people have said Conquest, but again, that kind of doesn't work for the timetable. We still have like 5-ish weeks left of we still have 5-ish weeks left of the current Conquest for Malicos, and then another 3 months prior to Leia. It just doesn't, the timetable doesn't work. CLS at 7. People should already have him at 5, I think, for Jedi Knight Luke or JML. I'm not 100% sure. Boush at 5 was kind of a curveball. I personally don't have Boush, or Bausch, or whatever the fuck you want to call her, but that's going to be, I guess, a farm that I have to take up. As you can see, I've kind of like disregarded the Cal farm. I think what I'm doing as far as farming is concerned is fleet energy I'm putting towards Marin for Cal. I'm going to do a 25 refresh of Captain Rex and a 25 refresh of Boush. That doesn't really leave me room for Tarful. Tarful's actually got a great farm because, for those of you guys who don't know, he's on the same shard as Vandor, and Vandor's a character not a lot of people have, but a character that really perpetuates like good defensive play in the mid-game. So a great node to farm. So if I ever have extra energy, I'll probably rip one of those a day just passively. But, definitely going to take a lot longer. And then we have Kanisa, who just hit, I think she just hit the shipments. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah. So I might be saving up crystals for that as far as GAC and fleet payout is concerned. But like we talked about prior to this, I won't have my phone. So if I'm not home during my payout, I'm going to get fucked. And that's going to actually just completely dramatically reduce my ability to get Leia, which is going to be super annoying. But Boush at 5 is not the end of the world. So for those of you guys who don't know, the best mid-game farming rotation is some amalgamation of Cal, Jedi Knight Luke, JML, Profundity, maybe a Star Killer thrown there. Like some weird, contorted human centipede version of that. It's looking very much like that Leia is a pretty easy option to go in at GL number 3 or GL, whatever GL number you have post JML. And then you have Boush at 5 and you have Jedi Knight Luke from JML. It's looking like optimal rotation will be like whatever you have, or if you're starting from scratch, JMK into a Cal Kestis, Jedi Knight Luke, Star Killer, JML, Profundity kind of thing, into a Leia, into a Jabba. So it's looking like they're kind of building a very set farming path for players, which I think is pretty good. I think it makes a lot of rotations pretty obvious and pretty kind of guilt-free, if that makes sense, making it so like you're just naturally led in a certain direction. And to be fair, it's a direction that's going to be powerful and good in GAC and help punch up. So it's not the end of the world. I'm definitely not mad about that. 3PO and Chewie at 7. A lot of whales already have him at 7, obviously, because he had that really OP Datacron. Most people don't. Honestly, giving more power to the CLS team and not taking away from it, they confirmed that CLS will not be taken. Yeah, like literally. Oh, you can't see what I'm looking at, but I'm reading the dev post. It just says that CLS will not be fucked with. Taking CLS to 7 and 3PO and Chewie to 7 is, I'm not going to complain about that. It's giving power to one of my favorite teams. And then Lobot at 3. I had Lobot favorited for the longest time because I was like, there's no way he's not a requirement. And then I unfavorited him, and I was like, you know what, maybe he's not going to be, but he's getting a rework in Omicron and all that good stuff. So hopefully it's a GAC Omicron, because all the other Omicrons kind of suck balls. But all in all, I think the requirements are, if you view them in the context of just another place to go in your rotation mid-game for farming, I think it's kind of perfect. Obviously, the 4 marquee characters trying to do it day 1 is not going to be optimal, but if we look a year or a year and a half or 2 years into the future, as players are kind of, the players that are 1 to 2 million GP right now, as they're building up over the years and they get to this point, I think this is going to be a lot more tenable. Just characters are accelerated. Maybe there's more gear changes. Maybe CG actually listens for once and gives us relic requirement materials and stuff like that. It makes it a little bit better. So I think all in all, this was pretty much a slam dunk as far as requirements are concerned. I think they did a really good job. They had a poll talking about, like, now that you know the requirements, do you want to farm Leia? Do you want to spend money? And they actually like straight up asked, let me see if I can find the actual like survey. It's like at the bottom here somewhere. Like one of the questions was literally like, does this make you want to spend like actual money? Oh fuck, did they remove it? Were you planning on getting Geo Leia? Did this? I think they may have changed the wording on some of them. Actually, I don't think they did. But basically, they're just like, are you spending money on Leia? Which I think is just straight up fucking hilarious. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're here to do. And I think they did a good job. I think they made a strong case for mid-game players, because the end-game players are all going to get whatever you give because they just have money and great jobs and blah, 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 blah. Like, they're going to have all the stuff. But for mid-game players, like the 4 to 7 million GP range, I think they definitely made the case that this should be a well-warranted, and assuming that she's good and isn't terrible on offense or defense and isn't like C. That's my biggest fear. She turns out to be like a carbon copy of C and she's good on offense and bad on defense, because apparently CG said that in some stream somewhere. But as long as that's not the case and she's more like JML or Jabba or Lord Vader or whatever, like a character that you can use on offense and defense, I think this is a pretty big slam dunk for mid-game players to add to the rotation at whatever point that they deem necessary. Is this a day 1 farm for most people? If you don't already have JML, probably not. But I have JML, so I guess I'm going to get her. So thank you guys so much for watching. Once I have the money to buy a phone, I will buy a phone and I can continue to communicate and do all that stuff. But until then, as always, love you, and I'll see you later.